leadership skills within your organization, for example, all those things are still really important to do. So how exactly can we make sure that we're still putting all these things into practice, even as Barbara said, life is going back to normal? Well, we have the answer for you. Joining us today is I was going to say
our first guest, Tony Latimer, MCC, and also founder of the coaching app, also more fondly known as Dad. Joining us on set today is our father.
Yeah, again, when you sort of have children, you realize, especially at the start, that your parents, you think they know it all, and we've actually just come to realize that our dad does actually know it all, which is frustratingly annoying at times.
But I just hope that I adopt some of it.
Yeah.
I want to know it all at some point too.
Okay, so maybe we start by setting the tone. Coaching, what exactly is it, Dad?
Coaching. Coaching is the process of making people think. That's it. Nothing more.
Oh, okay. Cool. That was a slightly shorter definition I think we expected.
Yeah.
And so we've had you on before, and we did talk a little bit about coaching. And
We did.
you know, if you Google coaching now, you get a whole array of different companies and people and stuff like that. Of course, 25 years ago, that wasn't so much the case.
No,
All you
was
got was the schedule
bus timetable
for the buses to Malaysia.
Yeah.
So I think what we wanted to talk a little bit about today is more people are adopting coaching within their organizations. You spoke the last time about the corporate edition.
Yes.
But receiving coaching or being coached, is it just a business thing? Like, I feel like we can adopt this differently. I mean, you've coached us since we were kids, so.
True, true. So let me give you the really extended version of the definition of what coaching is. It's helping somebody get absolute clarity on where they are now, absolute clarity on where they want to be in the future, and then absolute clarity on what they have to do differently to get from here to there.
A lot of clarity.
A lot of clarity. And misconception, people think that you need somebody else to do coaching. You can do an awful lot of it for yourself.
Just by asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions, triggering your subconscious, yes.
Interesting. Okay, so then how can we do that then, especially if you're going to be doing it by yourself?
Well, these days, I think people need to take ownership of their stuff. You know, the careers forever are gone. And I think people need to demand from the organization what they want, what they need. So you've got to do things on a pull basis. If you want some help, pull some help. So all you need to do is get some clarity on what needs to change for you. Then you've got to go and learn some stuff and put it into practice. And then you need to build habits. Building new habits is the hardest part. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if somebody gives you some feedback, you know you need to change.
Yeah.
Done. We've all been to school, so we know how to learn. But building the new habits is the hard bit. And if you've got a way of building the habits, you then need some calibration.
Yeah.
Change in here feels big. Out there, it may not be as visible.
So previously, you launched the corporate edition of the coaching app, where it could be rolled out, hundreds of people in the organization, thousands even, all interlinked via this coaching app to grow and to incorporate coaching into the company culture. So you're now launching the personal edition. So it's something that I, as an individual, can download and use.
Yes, absolutely.
So based on these 4 points, knowing that and having awareness that you need to change, learning something, putting it into practice, and that calibration required after, how does the coaching app help with that?
So it enables you as an individual to pull what you need. So for example, if you're in the workplace, if you want to learn how to lead people, how to manage teams, we've taken everything we teach the corporates at the very senior level, broken it all down into hundreds of little 3-minute chunks and built in there. So you want to know, how do I do this? How do I give somebody feedback? You just press the panic button and ask the question.
Panic button, I love that.
Yep, we have a panic button.
So, and it's literally a red button, right?
It's a red button. Yeah.
So you go in and you key in any question.
And you get an answer.
Fantastic.
And if you don't get an answer, you can ask me. So you can submit questions. So we're going to be continually adding content based on what people need in the workplace as things develop.
Nice.
So it's like putting C-Suite Executive Coach in your pocket.
Because if they can have access to it, why can't we?
Exactly.
Okay, so what next? What else have we got in there? Putting into practice?
Yeah, so you've got various tools to help you build the habits, create learning journals. You can create action plans. So
what exactly is an action plan then?
I've learned something, I'm going to do something differently. So I'm going to make a note of what am I going to do differently, and then you can send it to your boss and say, hey, what do you think? So you can pull a bit of coaching and interaction from your boss, your team members, anybody you like, your coach, internal or external.
Awesome.
So you're then getting this little time zone and distance means nothing because you can have the interaction going on backwards and forwards.
And then based on that, you can get the feedback on how you're doing.
Exactly. Pick the people that your new behavior affects, tell them the behavior you're going to change, and then periodically, when you know you've made the effort, you can reach out and say, how am I doing? Have you seen the change? So no interpretation, no judgments, just a factual, yes, I saw you do this differently. And your brain picks up the calibration from that. Yeah. Also, if somebody's asking you for feedback, you've got an easy way of collecting accurate information so that when they ask, you can give it to them accurately.
Fantastic. All right, so just to wrap this little section up, the personal edition isn't out just yet, but we can get updates on when it's launched?
Absolutely. It'll be in a few weeks. It's very, very close now. You just go to thecoachingapp.com. You can stick your name and email address in there, and you'll find out. You'll be the first to know.
Awesome. Okay, well, stick with us. We're going to go for a short break, but when we return, we're going to get insight from the business mind. We've got James Walton from Deloitte joining us once again here on Kickback. Don't go anywhere.
Hello and welcome back to Kickback with Kelly and Barbara and Dad and our second guest, James Walton, Clients and Markets Leader of Deloitte Southeast Asia. Thank you for joining us again, James. How are you?
I'm doing good today, doing good.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Okay, so the workforce has changed quite dramatically in the past 6 months. And obviously, leadership is a little bit harder. It's harder to keep track of your people. How has Deloitte managed to work around it?
I think the first step really is just making sure that you're making contact with people, that you're reaching out to them, that they know what they should be doing, they know when they should be doing it. It's very easy, as you mentioned at the top of the show, to think a lot about yourself. But when you need to coach people, when you need to mentor and develop people, you also need to check in and make sure that they are also doing the same things as well.
Fantastic.
Okay, and then sort of in terms of personal development plans then, how important do you think it is for individuals within the organization to have those plans in place? How important is it for them personally and also for the organization to be developing?
It's absolutely critical, and it's very easy for individuals to have their own development plans, but not necessarily for those development plans to align to what the organization as a whole should look like. So we try to encourage that everybody's development plan is aligned, that it should cascade from the top down to the bottom, that it's aligned to the strategy of the organization, and then that it's aligned to the strategy of the department. And you'll find that if you know what your boss's goals are, if you know what your boss's targets are, and you align your own goals to those targets, then it will obviously make day-to-day success a lot easier.
Fantastic. Now, Dad, I can't quite decide what I should be calling him.
Sir.
It's like stutter when you try and call him by his first name. Dad,
Yeah.
so speaking of that, I mean, you've obviously been in contact with a lot of your clients over the last few months. And I'm curious to see what are some of the struggles that they've faced and how are they helping, or what are the fixing mechanisms that we're trying to put in place to help them through?
Well, James has just touched on that. The keeping in contact, the regularity. In the old days, people had an annual appraisal.
Right.
Yeah. And the problem is, to put it bluntly, the absence of punishment is reward. So if you don't tell somebody that something they're doing is a little off track.
That's why we got kicked out of the house as kids when we argued.
Feedback. If you don't correct them. So we teach this thing called Voyage Planning. So your constant day-to-day process. We've agreed where we're going. That's like the year's goal, as you were talking about. And then we map the route. We get down to that. What are the specific things I have to do day by day, week by week? And it then just becomes project management. So the manager coaching the subordinate is then just doing 3 things in a cycle: observe, feedback, coach. So gentle touches on the rudder, keeping it. It's a day-by-day thing. And you've got to enable that. You've got to give people the tools to go from, here's the company goal, here's my objectives, I know how they align to that, and then what am I going to do on a day-to-day basis in order to deliver that?
And how does the coaching app assist with that? Obviously, everything has just gone completely digital over the last 6 months. We're not in the office. We're not talking to each other as much. You can't just pop over to someone's desk.
Yes.
So if anything, the coaching app would be so much more useful now, or applicable, easily applied. And how can that be applied to this situation?
Yeah. So what most organizations have is the big objectives, the goals and everything built in, cascaded down through typically an HR system. But when it gets down to the individual, there's nothing. That's where the gap comes. So what we're doing is we're putting the personal edition of the coaching app to sit underneath that. Then you can talk to your manager about what are the specifics I'm going to do. And how do those behaviors and how doing those things aligns maybe to my leadership competencies, my behavioral competencies. So now we've agreed the voyage in precise detail. I can then be proactive. So as I do stuff, I can just press the button and send the update so that they're getting that proactive data feed, which means they know what's going on. So I'm pulling the interaction I need to support me in achieving my objectives and making my deliverables real. And as the manager, it's easier. I don't have to come chase you and micromanage because I'm getting the data feed. I know what's going on. I can then interact with you through the app, through in-app messaging. As you said, doesn't matter about time zones, doesn't matter about geography. You're just in contact.
And I guess that also helps with like a millennial workforce. I mean, within Deloitte, you guys have got quite a varied pool of talent. I mean, you guys have done a great job over the years in terms of incorporating our athletes within the workforce, but you actually have a wide age range and a wide range of capabilities and abilities within the organization. What are some of the struggles that maybe you guys have had with dealing with such a varied workforce? Because the millennials are going to take over very, very soon. They're going to become the bulk of our workforce. And whilst a lot of people cringe at the word millennial, they go, ugh, don't want to employ them, but actually they've got good value, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic. We go all the way from, baby boomers and Gen X all the way through to the millennials now. And different levels of people within an organization want different things, but also these different groups, these different generations want different things. The older generations tended to want direction and to have someone helping them on that journey. A lot of the time now for the younger generations, the millennials, it's about finding out things yourself and taking personal ownership and accountability. They want that leadership opportunity at an earlier stage. So they're also obviously far more digitally savvy, far more tech savvy. So for them, the idea of going away and reading a book isn't about coaching, isn't necessarily the right thing. They want to find articles, they want to find inputs, they want the opportunity to communicate with someone via an app or via social media, perhaps, rather than meetings. So as an organization, we're having to adjust our processes exactly to what Tony talked about. It's more real time, it's more micro, it's more online, so that the younger individuals can feel like they are now in control of their career and they don't need to wait for their boss to have that traditional annual evaluation kind of setup that used to be in the past.
And do you think that this is the way forward then? Is this something that all companies should be looking at adopting in terms of practices?
I mean, to come back to Tony's point, if you're still doing annual evaluations, that is not the way to go. I always compare it to the expression that you're only as good as your last game. And if you work hard for 6, 7, 8 months of the year, do very well, and just have a bad last month of the year, your evaluation will be a bad evaluation, and vice versa. So the more that you can get micro feedback, 360 feedback, feedback from your peers, real-time feedback, and as Tony said, feedback that actually aligns to what is the behavior you're trying to change, rather than just, did you do something? Okay, but how did you do it? What was the way in which you did it? What was the change that actually happened? Then ultimately, the better it will be for your development long term, and that has to be good for the organization.
And Dad, you've got quite an interesting take on millennials as well. Let's hear.
That sounds like a setup.
It's like, there you go.
We've been having chats about it, obviously, because your daughters-ish.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the millennials in the workforce and how the approach that they're taking?
So I think they've got it absolutely right.
Oh, you want to say that again?
They've got it absolutely right. So look, let's just skip back. When I was 12, my dad went from one company to another, and it was the talk of the town for weeks. The street talked about nothing else, because you didn't do that. Right? We've now gone through these various progressions. Company loyalty is nonsense, arrant nonsense. Last year, a well-known we make electric cars company, share price dipped a little bit. CEO gets on Twitter and says, it's okay, we're going to lay off 7% of the workforce. 30 seconds later, share price is back up there. You know, no conversation about, can we do that? Who goes? Who's going to have those awkward conversations? Right? So there is no. The organization is just a legal entity. Everybody from the CEO down is an employee. And the deal has to be, you must give 100% on everything you do for the company. And if you supervise other people, part of your 100% is making sure they give 100%. And then in return, the organization has to give you money, fair, reliably, recognition, and growth. Because if there's no growth, you're just doing it for the money. And we know what that leads to. So the organization has to insist at each level that they're having those growth conversations with people. And the individual has to take ownership of it. Yeah? Your boss will make sure you have the conversation. You've got to come up and say, here's what I need. And we've found, you were talking about personal development plans. There's 2 questions you should ask at the beginning of each year. 1, what do you need to get better at this year in order to achieve your objectives with greater ease? Secondly, what would you like to learn for what you want to do next? Because looking beyond next is ridiculous these days. Yeah? Those 2 questions give you the frame of a personal development plan, so we can now actually say, okay, what do we need to put in place? How are you going to learn it? Yeah? How are we going to test your ability with it? How are we going to measure your progress?
And I think that's really important, because I think previously, even when we were sort of younger and in school, they'd be like, oh, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? But actually, that question is no longer relevant, because if you think about the sort of jobs that will be available in, never mind 10 years, but in 5 years' time, it could be completely different. So I think having that personal development where you're looking at what is next is actually a really handy tool to have. Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. I really do like what you've done with the coaching app, and it's not just me saying that because I'm your daughter. I just actually think it's a really useful tool. So if you'd like to, you can always head over to the website and find out more details. Sign up so that you get all the details on when that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. James, you are not done. You are about to embark on a very long and painful journey with the London Marathon virtually this year.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about that in the next segment after we come back from a little bit of a break, and you're also going to be putting Barbara through your paces too. We will see you guys on Kickback with Kelly and Barbara in just a few short moments. Don't go away.
Welcome back to Kickback with Kelly and Barbara. Now that I am done with my workout on the spin bike, James Walton is with us. He's obviously a huge runner, and you're taking part in the London Virtual Marathon. So we thought it would be good for you to run through some of your pre-running warm-ups with us. I mean, obviously, a lot of people who started running during the circuit breaker, you kind of do your basic warm-ups, but not really go through it properly. So from a marathon runner himself, let's go through some warm-ups.
So for me, I tend to focus on three main muscles just because I had some problems with them, and from a distance running point of view, they tend to be the most problematic, which is basically calves, hamstrings, and groin.
Right.
So usually I will start by working out on the groin muscle, either straight down the middle to start with, and you'll even feel it a little bit in your calves here as well, hopefully, and then to one side.
Oh, so you're not bending straight over. Okay. And then you get on the inner.
Yeah, so you're getting on the inner groin there, and then to the other side.
Got to balance it out.
Yeah. And then, as you say, down to the middle. And just get the tension all the way up.
Yeah.
So that's the first muscle.
Oh, that's the first one.
Yeah.
I covered like two of them. Okay.
No. The second thing I would usually do is calf muscle. So I'm going to get down for this one. And just one leg behind. So from this angle, a little bit better.
Ah, okay.
One leg down on the ground, the other one tucked in behind.
Gotcha.
And then switching.
So you're kind of using that other leg to push down on that
push
calf
down,
a little
and
bit.
you should feel it right below the knee on the back of your calf there.
Lovely. Well, that's a good stretch as well.
There are other kind of simple ones you can do standing up. I find just quite effective, even just to put your heel down like that. You should feel it up the back of the calf as well on that one. And then the last thing I would usually work out is hamstring, and ideally you would have something with a bit of height to it, but without, you can also do it, is to actually do the same stretch but to go deeper into it.
But with your calf up? With your toes pointed up?
With your toes pointed up.
Okay.
And
So that
feel on
kind
the
of
back.
works the hamstring a little bit more.
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit higher up the leg. And then the same on the other side.
So my question is, so a lot of these stretches for pre-running are static stretches.
Yep.
So yes, it stretches the muscle, but then is the kind of, the warm-ups where your body get warm,
Yeah.
right? Does that just happen as you start jogging?
So for me, because generally the distances I'm running are 15, 20 kilometer type plus distances, I tend to just start jogging very slowly to start with.
Okay.
Get a couple of 100 meters, 400 meters, 500 meters, get moving, get the muscles warm, and then take a little break and stretch out once they're warm a little bit.
So I don't get to count that initial warm-up time into my into my total distance.
I usually add on, but it's also little things you can do as well, just stepping up and down on the curb before you start running, like you say, some stretches like that, hopping up and down as well, that will just get the muscles moving a little bit faster can be good. Yeah.
Awesome. So we want to know more about this London Virtual Marathon, and you are going to tell us a little bit more about it, but if you're going to tell us about it, might as well put your money where your mouth is and hop on a bike. So you're going to get on the bike, and you can tell us all about this London Marathon, how you're preparing for it, what you're doing, when it's going to be, and we'll turn the resistance down. So,
Thank you very much.
You've got a little bit of, let's see, how does that feel? So just pedal.
That feels very easy, yeah.
That's very easy. All right, let's just turn it up.
I shouldn't have said that, should I? Okay.
Nope. All right, so ready and go. Let's hear about this London Virtual Marathon.
All right, so as you know, the London Marathon got cancelled this year. I have to cycle faster, okay.
Yeah.
London Marathon got cancelled this year, and it got moved to October and to October 4th. And then it got moved to a virtual London Marathon. So basically what you have to do if you were in the London Marathon, you keep turning this up on me, yeah? Is within a 24-hour period on Sunday, October 4th, you have to do the full 42.2 kilometer distance. And so I'm going to be doing it in East Coast Park. I've got a 10-kilometer course. We're going to be doing just over 4 laps. Wow, okay. This is resistance now. Doing a 10-kilometer loop, doing it 4 times and a little bit more. 6 p.m. in the evening till 10 p.m. in the evening to raise money for Club Rainbow. Who are doing educational support, educational subsidies for children with chronic illnesses.
Oh, we're only at 84 RPM. Come on, keep going.
Okay, I really have to work out now. So yeah, we're hoping to raise some money for them because obviously a lot of charity money has been given recently, but it's been tending to go to the frontline causes, things like that, which are great causes, but we have other charities as well out there that need help. So we're going to try to, I haven't spun in like 10 years. I'm a runner and you put me on a bike. I wanted to run, but I think we should have gone out and run 42K.
I think,
just to,
I think maybe
even
not.
things out.
So just to wrap things up for you, we've hit the 92 RPM mark as well.
Okay, is that what you want to do?
Again, when
okay,
is this happening?
This is October 4th, Sunday evening, 6 till 10 at East Coast Park.
And if people want to join, it's already done, right? They can't join anymore, but they can support.
We can't join because of the running bubbles and such, but they can come down and cheer a little bit if they want. Or if they go to giving.sg and search for Team Deloitte.
Let's get it to 100.
A fundraising page for Club Rainbow under Team Deloitte on giving.sg.
Fantastic. We hit 120 RPM. I think you can slowly cool down now. That was a Kickback with Kelly and Barbara. Our next episode this week is actually our last week of Kickback in the evenings. So we hope you will join us for all 3 episodes. Coming up on Wednesday, it's all about movement. Friday, the return of sport. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This has been Kickback with Kelly, Barbara, Dad, and James Walton.
Thank you.